days.
Yo.
If they reboot it, he should just slap Chris Rock, and that's the end of it.
80s and 90s, Will Smith was lit. Okay.
Yeah, dude. Totally.
I think Fresh Prince is
I'm
the
not
only show I can name.
I'm not gonna let recent
Goosebumps.
things about him,
Goosebumps.
you know,
Yeah.
determine my entire childhood of loving him.
I don't know why people freaked out so much about him smacking Chris Rock, bro. People were like, "This is terrorism on live TV," and it's like, dude, you guys calm the fuck down. Like, it is not that deep, man.
No, it's really not.
You just slapped a motherfucker, bro.
Yeah, that was his boy though, which is what made it bad. But
Am I gonna sit on the couch here, Ryan?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know we had assigned seats. My bad.
I did not either.
You assign them yourself.
Yeah.
Cool. So, welcome to the podcast. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves? Well, first off, I'm Ryan, your host, as well as Logan over there.
I'm Logan, your host, also.
Cool.
I'm Chloe. I'm Chloe.
Scene goer.
Yeah.
Scene.
Show goer, the ultimate show goer.
Yeah.
Doesn't miss a show, Chloe.
That's a good nickname.
Yeah.
Chloe don't miss? Question
Chloe
mark?
don't miss.
I'm Alec.
Hi, Alec.
Hi,
Hi, Alec.
Why do you say it like that? I've heard meetings like that.
I'm Randy. I was invited here. Hi.
Hi, Randy.
Cool. Yeah, so
I didn't have
talking about
anything prepared
airplanes
for
and
this.
stuff. But let's just get into it. What do y'all do for a living?
Yeah. Who wants to go first?
Okay, I guess I'm the guest. So, I work at the Monte Vista Hotel. I'm a sound technician, a bar back, and a security guard.
Cool. You have projects as well, right? Musical projects?
Yeah, I play in several bands in town. I think my most well-known one is Face Pulp. I also play in Dead Soil, De Cathedra, Oppressory Victor, which is going to play its first show next month, and Absizing, which is kind of on the back burner because that's like Flagstaff / Phoenix, and yeah, I currently don't have a reliable vehicle to really make that work, so.
Sure. You also like put on a lot of shows around town too. Is it?
I do. It's probably going to be the death of me, but
I feel that.
yeah.
For real.
Yeah, it makes it super difficult, to be honest, just because of what my work schedule is and the fact that I can only, I can't take every weekend off work. It's our busiest time, yada, yada, yada. So pretty much, if I'm not playing, I can't be there. But I will still make sure that bands get helped, shows get booked, and that there's people to run them, while also still providing, things like a place to stay, a meal, etc.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Chloe, do you want to talk about what you do?
I'm Chloe, and I mooch off my mother for a living.
She's a professional showgoer.
Yeah.
And it's just the spirit of the youth in Flag.
Yeah.
I hear that quite a lot, actually.
You bring so much energy to the shows usually. Like, if a show is dead, you, like, get people hyped, and, like, it's pretty cool.
Well, thank you.
Well, I guess we should talk about the scene in Flagstaff. How would you guys describe it? Like, what's the vibe? What kind of music is out here? Like, how would you, if someone has never been to Flagstaff, how would you describe the music scene to them?
I feel like our scene is very categorized. So as the youth describe it, we have the pop punk scene and we have the hardcore scene. And the pop punk scene is everything from like indie, Midwest emo, psych rock, whatever else. And then the hardcore scene is like the Crust, the Mints, all of that stuff. But I think it's a lot based on the different venues. I know that the pop punk scene mostly uses the Hive. The hardcore scene mostly uses Mocaf and Awakawa. And I like both a lot. Those are I like both sides of the scene. I think it's a very open scene. People really like to talk to other people. In Tucson, you'll go to a show and I have not seen like anyone interact down there. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's to me that's just typical big city behavior. Like I'm not trying to be smug.
Actually,
it's because they're smug, and unfortunately, there's people in this town who want to be like them too, like that think like certain bands can't play together or this or that, and it's like, motherfucker, there's like 7 bands in this whole city. Are you gonna tell me that like
Right, and they all share members.
Yeah. So like I would like to think that none of my bands sound the same. I think some of them can go together where, there's 1 or 2 of them that really don't.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, I don't think that stuff matters here. I don't think for most of the people that go to shows here it matters. I can't really speak for like the overall music scene because all I truly know and actually understand is like people that are into punk metal and hardcore in this town. And as far as those scenes go, there is a lot of crossover. I think there's people who don't want it to be that way, but those are the same people who will complain about how everything sucks, and most of them won't do anything about it sucking. So I don't really care, because I definitely have had my fair share of criticisms of like bands that I put on bills together. But once again, like we're working with what we have. I think there's a large audience for that kind of music, and if you can get your band to a point where you're not playing like the same place or the same city every week or two, and you can track the following, it is not like unheard of in this city for like over 100 kids to pull up for a local show.
Oh yeah,
Like,
totally.
So that to me shows a thriving scene, but there's not a lot of bands to back up a scene that size. Whereas like down in Phoenix, there's 50 million fucking bands. There's a lot of good bands, but you can be at a show with a stacked lineup and there's fucking 20 people there.
Yeah.
Totally.
Whereas I don't really think that happens up here very often.
The people up here are pretty ride or die for the people that they go to. I love this band. I'm gonna go to every show that I can and like do whatever I can to interact and be a part of that scene.
Yeah.
Which I think is important too, because like you guys said, I mean I've been on tour and like I feel like there's been a few cities where it has that vibe, but most cities kind of don't. It's very cliquey. I feel like in a lot of places around, especially like down in Phoenix and Tucson, there's a lot of people that will like only go to one show for the one band and take off as soon as they leave.
Yeah, or I'm in the hardcore scene, not this scene, or I'm in this scene and not that scene kind of shit.
Yeah, I'm actually a grind mincecore, and you're putting us with black metal, and that's just not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's... I don't know. I just take it for what it is. I mean, I wish I could get, some of the kids that do live up here to kind of see things that way, but you're not gonna win everybody over. It's just not gonna happen. The one thing that has drastically slowed down in this town, once again, I'm only talking about punk metal and hardcore because that's what I know. What I notice has died down is the same bands playing every single week on an all locals lineup. I think one of the things we need to check ourselves and realize on is that there's a lot of bands, like the demand to play Flagstaff is very high, but our resources and bands and stuff that we can put on bills is very low.
Totally.
There's not a lot of choice. And when I see them throwing these all locals lineups, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Especially if it's around a time when, hey, this really fucking awesome band from Oakland or from Germany or from here or there was trying to play here that same week, and I couldn't find fucking bands. It happened with Urian and I recently. Where I had to he was like, I have you on the calendar for this day. What happened? I was like, oh yeah, I don't know if I forgot to tell him or what, but I was like, yeah, I canceled that show because I couldn't find locals. But literally the week before, there was an all local show, you know, that like those bands could have served that traveling band. To me, all locals lineups, even in a big city, you know, to me, that is for benefit shows, fundraising, you know, things like that. Everything else is just excessive, you know, especially with how few bands we have here. Like at least with Facepulp, I try to make sure we only play the same city like max once a month. But I try to keep it like every other month. I understand if you're like an up and coming band and you just started, like it's different. Yeah, fucking play like in the very beginning. Yeah, play as much as you can, get in front of people as much as you can. But you know, then this is just my opinion. Once you kind of establish a bit of a following and you know people are gonna come see you, fucking draw that shit back a little bit. Because even with Facepulp, I notice when we're playing too much. Because there's always like 1 or 2 times a year where it's just like, man, I'm breaking this rule that I'm talking about right now. And one of the shows, you know, will have 150 plus people, and the other one will have like 50.
Totally.
And I think it's because it's just like, well, I'll just see them next time.
Exactly.
I'll just see them next time. You know, it really takes away, you know, like whatever special thing you're delivering, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know?
No, totally, man.
I mean, I've heard of some legendary Tiny Bird sets, you know?
Yeah.
But I've also, you know, have known that, you know, like, you can overplay in this town. It's really not hard. You know, it's not like there's so many other bands and so many other crowds to get in front of. Totally. You know, once you get in front of, like, 2-3 shows with different bands, you've pretty much played to everybody.
Yeah. I just went through that with my band recently. Like, after we got back from tour last year, we kind of realized that we had been playing way too many shows, and that, like, on that same topic, like, not only were we burnt out from it, but I noticed that the people that would show up kind of slowly tapered off because of what you said. Well, they play every single week. I can just go to the next show, you know? So I think it's important to talk about spacing your music out and stuff, because it makes people want it more.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with playing a bunch of shows, but like if you're gonna play a bunch of shows, like go out and play other cities, like
other cities, other bands.
Like expand yourself, you know, out a little bit, because. Oops. I lost my train of thought with that.
Expand yourself and play with other bands in other cities.
Yeah. Like take that time you're taking off for all that local gigging, and like go somewhere different. You know, play with different bands. You know, I try for all my bands to make sure that like we're going out of town every other month. You know, like whether it's a weekend, you know, or something like that. Just, you know, putting yourself out there in front of different faces than the ones that see you all the time. You know, and more importantly to that stuff that people overlook that we were talking about earlier, people skip small towns and they're like making a horrendous mistake. In my opinion,
especially Flagstaff.
Yeah. Skipping Flagstaff. I'll tell you right now, skipping Shiprock. Like if you know the right people, play Shiprock like 2 or 3 times a year. Like Facepulp does it. I'm now sending bands there because I know reliable people who book things there. And literally, I'm telling you, every single time we go out there, the crowd gets a little bit bigger and a little bit better, a little bit bigger and a little bit better, you know? And that's just how you build yourself up, you know?
I feel like there's a lot of confusion for up-and-coming artists on the right way to go about putting yourself out there, you know? And I feel like it's kind of like a daunting task for some people, because you're like, well, how do I find a band? How do I get into a venue? How do I get people to show up, you know? And I feel like sometimes that can be super anxiety-inducing for people, you know?
Well, yeah, it's all done on social media. It's meant to breed anxiety.
Oh, yeah, dude. I
Alec,
think that's... Oh, go ahead.
You've been in the Flagstaff music scene for quite a while. What's your take on it?
What was it? there was so much that just got said. So,
well,
on what specifically?
Describe the scene to someone who's never been to Flagstaff.
Because I feel like you're part of like a whole different scene than Randy.
Yeah, you're in
part
like
of.
funk and R&B.
Gosh, I have so much. Y'all gave me so much insight from what you said already. It was really helpful for me just to hear what everybody said. But what I said recently is that Flagstaff is so much bigger than any one person's scene or conception of what it is. I've heard people for years say it used to be so much cooler. The scene here is dead. I've heard people say the scene is dead every year of my life that I've played in the music scene in Flagstaff.
Yeah.
And I think that when you look at cliques, I hear people say Flagstaff's super friendly also, and dancey. I also go to cities, people don't dance as much.
They're like,
It's a vibe up here.
Well, here here there's just people that say they're not dancing the right way to this music.
dance differently.
Yeah.
That could be.
Shut the fuck up and go have fun.
Well, and that's the thing, yeah. Because even on people who are who stand by their cliques and are adamant about it, I think, is that always bad? Is that just human nature? That's another question I've had. And is that just a phase in your life? You have multiple friends.
Yeah.
And you're going to have, hopefully, at least a couple ride or dies in your life. So if that's how you feel, that's your scene. And that is your scene. So I feel like, whoever puts the most love into their vision of what's happening will create that. So I don't know, because I don't go out a lot, but I'm lucky enough to still be here at the Hive and having signed a 3-year lease.
Woo. Nice.
I was not against my better judgment. I've done this. So, and I think, I think maybe there's bands because of the perceived clickiness that might not be showing their faces. And like you're saying, there's people who don't know how to break in. Mm-hmm. There's like an information shock.
Yeah.
Because I feel like analysis paralysis is a phrase that I like to use for that. I think it's like, how do I start? And then if you want to get even deeper on like a whole, because I think art is just a journey to the self, if you let it be. And I think that a lot of people don't know what they want. I think they jam with their friends and suddenly they got further than they could ever have imagined. And then they don't know where to go from there.
Oh, I've seen that happen over the years.
I know because I've done it to myself. I lived it.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think that's like what separates the Hive a little bit from other venues in town is I feel like the Hive is a really good stepping stone into the scene.
Absolutely.
And that's what I mean is these bands here, pop punk scene, hardcore scene, whatever, if they look at it as that when the time comes, they could be billing with their favorite bands at Yucca or Orpheum, or perhaps maybe we actually take a look at trying to establish a venue in Fire Creek again.
No, yeah, and I've seen it with what you just described with the like Toothache or Winter Haven,
Right. They got bigger shows.
When Toothache got the show with was it Joyce Manor?
Yep.
Yeah, that was fucking dope. And then Winter Haven just like fucking
It was
blew
dope
up.
that Yucca invited a local band to open a show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Seriously.
the fucking disconnection with these big venues in our town is fucking insane.
Okay, well, here's
Seriously.
funny thing. Yucca big, 1. 2, they don't have a booking person. It's basically their bar manager. And so that maybe sounds familiar to you, Randy. But that's the other thing is you have multiple people doing multiple jobs for not enough pay. And I've talked to almost every booker and every venue worker in town, not just at the Hive where the overhead is low and it can be done here, relatively low risk, but in these places where there's actually money and livelihoods on the line. So I'd feel like there needs to be a big look in the mirror for Flagstaff as a culture and as a community too. Because of that, because art is one of the only other things that we have to give as far as industry, and otherwise you're looking at making a tourist attraction out of indigenous people's land. And I think the art is a way to open a dialogue about that, and so it's a good place to be putting our cards.
Hell yeah, brother.
Well said.
Yeah, agree, man. I feel like the community sense that Flagstaff has is very strong, and it's like probably the strongest community sense.
For the people that want it, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, for
the
the
only
people that
other
want
place
it.
that I can think of that has even a slightly similar vibe is Colorado Springs. Because when we played over there, like it was the same kind of thing where like troves of people showed up, everybody was buying merch, and everyone was just like having a good time, and I've only seen that in a couple cities.
I heavily fuck with the Springs, man.
Dude, Colorado Springs is one of my
Oh, yeah.
favorite cities to play.
Yeah, mine too.
I'm gonna be going on tour later this year, and I cannot wait to hit that place again.
Me as well.
Yeah.
When are you taking off over there?
It's gonna be September 3rd through the 11th.
Oh, I'm gonna be there right after you.
Oh, nice, dude.
Literally, like right after.
Just missing each other.
So.
Yeah, going back to the bigger venues in town, it's really confusing how they operate, I feel like, because like they will invite locals onto shows sometimes, but also they'll totally sham the locals or disregard them entirely.
Okay, so I actually have I have a lot to say about that. So particularly a lot of the major productions and promoters that put on those events at those places, they're not even local. Like I know a lot of people think the Face Pulp Song Shop local is something political, and it is not. It's not political. It's about a very specific production company and a very specific person who blackballed us off of shows that people that worked at the venues were asking for us to play. You know, and I mean several opportunities actually where we were shut out by a very specific person who proceeded to send us a very condescending email.
Dang.
About how, you know, how he doesn't feel any band in Flagstaff deserves to, you know, be on this and that.
I feel
And
like I know who you're talking about.
you might. You might. I mean, I'll put it to you this way. We were requested by a major legend to open up a bill for their show, and they pressed it, and then the guy turned around and counter offered them an extra $2,000 to leave it alone.
Oh my lord!
To not have you on
That
the
is
bill? That's
heinous.
insane.
Yeah, it's
Petty.
That is
Yeah.
petty.
Yeah.
That's
Very
fucked
petty.
up.
Very petty, and it's somebody who's very, very well known, very well respected, and has been literally been going on world tours as long as I've been alive. So
That's a pretty long time.
thanks, Chloe.
Chloe's one sentence in the podcast.
I've been waiting to hear from Chloe.
She
Yeah.
spoke a little bit.
No. But in real talk, like I think with everybody else too, you know, like I know with Yucca, for the longest time, I don't know what they're doing now. I also know that they just sold.
Did they?
Did they
Yeah,
really?
yeah, but
Okay.
they're staying open. It was one of the private investors that bought
Okay.
it, allegedly.
I heard there's a couple more bars for sale.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing too.
Dang.
We're always
buy it.
watching for this shit.
Let's do
What can we get our
the
hands
Hive
on?
alcohol venue.
Yeah.
I also heard 4A's for sale.
4A's been
Oh my
for sale.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just said that because I don't know if it's supposed to be a rumor or not still.
Oh well, they had a fucking big ass sign out in the window.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
That's funny. I was here
Let's
all
buy
day,
it.
man. Yeah.
Yeah. But the other thing is too, so like I know for a while with Yucca, they were just like having people from Phoenix do it, so it's not really people that are here. You know, so how would you expect them to know? You know.
Right.
And I mean, it would be one thing. It sucks that we like are sitting here talking about this, like we don't get to play this big show, you know, like we sound like we're fucking whining, but the reality is,
The gatekeeping.
if you're having the show, and you're gonna invite some band nobody's heard of from Phoenix to open it, why are you skipping us? You know,
Yeah.
that's my biggest thing is like, you know, especially when you put on this facade that like your venue is like alternative and it's this and it's that, and it's like, no, you're not. You're not doing anything unique over here. You know, and you know, I mean, knock on wood, I'm pretty sure all that stuff's about to change, specifically with Yucca. But we'll see. Only time's gonna be able to really tell there. You know, there is rumors and talks between one of my better halves who isn't here and people that work there talking about how they actually are going to start trying to do like, more local shows and local events and stuff like that. But it's still, they're still not going to use their loophole for the kitchen. So it's all going to be 21 and up anyway. Which I just feel like the whole point of having a fucking kitchen in a bar is so... I mean, you go to any of these fucking breweries in town, there's a million screaming kids running around fucking everywhere. Little ones.
Like in Phoenix venues that
Like-
have bars in them, like, separated out so, kids can still go to the show and stuff.
Yeah, that was what I really loved about the Legion when that was still a poppin' thing, because I saw age demographics coming together in large numbers that would never, ever, ever be in the same room.
Yeah.
Totally.
Like a lot of my friends who are my age or older who want to go to shows but maybe don't want to necessarily come to the Hive and feel like they're everyone's fucking dad. They won't come here. But they would go to the Legion because yeah, they could go to the bar, or even if they didn't drink, like there was they felt like something extra was there for them where they didn't feel weird just hanging out with a bunch of kids. I don't give a shit. I've been playing music my whole life. I've been the youngest person in the room, and now I'm the oldest usually, unless Steve's there. So like I don't care anymore, I guess. It has never really mattered to me. I think the interaction and getting younger kids involved, we got Chloe here right now. Like there's people that are in bands now that I gave drum lessons to. There's people in bands now where I gave them a bass because I just had a squire that was collecting dust that are playing in bands now, and like that's not possible with the bar barricade.
Totally, dude.
It's not. It's not. If they're like without the kids, you have no scene.
Yep.
Like you go on tour, your better shows 9 times out of 10 isn't at the local dive. It's at the all ages venue where kids are excited and they're dancing and they're there to see you.
Yeah.
Whereas like I work at the Monty V, and it doesn't matter how good you are or how much of a following you have. Like the majority of people that are going to go into that place for whatever event's happening, they are there for the bar first and you second.
Yep.
The bar is what's important to them. Which is super sad, and that's coming from somebody who drinks beer every day of their fucking life. So
Seriously though, all ages venues are so important, because I don't understand why you wouldn't want to introduce music or a scene to as many people as you can.
they're the ones that are going to keep it alive.
Yeah.
Like, because eventually you're going to get busy with other endeavors and fizzle out, and you're not really going to have your ear to the ground the way you used to. Or you'll move on to a career, or you'll end up with a kid. Oops. And like, and you can't really, like, after that, at least for some years, it takes you away from all that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have, like, teenagers and young adults coming up behind you to carry that torch, your scene is going to die. It's going to completely disappear. When I first moved here in 2018, there really wasn't a scene here, at least for anything I was interested in. I would see great bands and go to shows that like a dozen people would be at, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I even watched Ugly play to like 20 people. And the people that were here didn't really feel very warm or inviting. I went to the legendary Cottage House the first 6 months I was here, and I couldn't even get anybody to have a conversation with me.
Now that's
So-
before my time.
Yeah, way before.
Hey, I went there for years and I couldn't get anyone to have a conversation with me. They're like, this guy's still coming?
I mean, I was literally, and I was so desperate to make friends too. I would see the couple people around town that would be into this sort of thing, and I would see their really niche, rare band that nobody knows, and I would comment on it, like, oh man, All Pigs Must Die, I love that band, blah, blah, blah. You know this band? Yeah, blah, blah. Hey, what happens this time? Boop, boop, nothing, Or I would meet people who wanted to play music and that were into some of the same stuff I was interested into, And every time it came time to, try to schedule a practice or do anything, mind you, I have recording gear. I have a place to practice. I have a trailer that can tow gear. Like, I have everything that you could possibly need. And when it came time to set up practice, it was crickets. But when I wanted to hit them up to go to the bar for the night, like, fucking, I get a response in about 5 minutes max.
You gotta get people that are like, doubt it, like.
Oh yeah, you do. It took me forever. It took me a long time, and I mean, shit. Mason and I have been jamming for 2 or 3 years longer than Facepalp has been a band.
Oh wow. Cool.
Like, because it took us that long to find people, and it took us a long time to find each other. On top of that, and then COVID happened, and
Yep.
I feel like after COVID is like when this town, I started to see people out.
That's when the scene started to really blow up with like Monette and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
That's when I got into the scene.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about 2019 too, when GBU first got introduced. 2019 here at the Hive, we were playing with Possum Pants and like some of these other old bands that don't exist anymore. And that was great for me because I agree with you guys. I started noticing 2019, 2020 really, really explosion. Like the shows that I was doing here were sold out every time. And like then Monet and Toothache and all of these other really awesome bands started coming out. I feel like the punk scene is like blowing up in Flagstaff right
Yeah,
It is.
absolutely.
It is, yeah. I mean, we've all been angsty and young, and some of us still are.
Yup.
I would
And,
not call myself angsty, thank you.
What would you call yourself?
Calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah,
I respectfully disagree.
very calm. I'm very calm, very collected, and very cool.
So for the audience, glasses are being placed on the face. They're circular.
Yeah,
It dropped a few degrees in here.
They're tubular.
totally radical, man.
So
Bitchin'.
some of my favorite shows I've ever been to in town, right, are multi-genre shows.
Yeah.
Same.
Like there's like a punk happening, and then all of a sudden there's pop, and then there's like hyper pop happening or some shit,
I love that kind of stuff, man.
Those are like some of my favorite shows to go to, and it for some reason it feels like people wanna, or bands in general wanna step away from that.
They want to kind of like
they
section
want to like,
themselves.
oh, we're all hardcore, so we're all gonna play together, and it's hard for me to try and understand why you don't want to just hear like all different kinds of music throughout the night.
Especially
Yeah.
as like a music lover. Like if you really love music, you wouldn't care about
Yeah.
the bands that are playing or what
I-
genre they are.
Yeah, I agree with what you both said, but I have a rebuttal.
Let's hear it.
Yeah,
I'm
so
gonna reverse.
so as much as I agree, yeah, I love multi-genre shows. I'm never bothered by it, but I will turn them down a lot. But that's literally because like I already have a show set up with somewhere near to that time frame where the bands are more appropriate, which is usually why I turn things like that down.
It doesn't always work out with mixed genres.
No,
too.
no. But, every year Steve throws a show on his birthday, and that's usually when we, Gone Before Us played one of those.
Yeah.
That was like Facepalp, Gone Before Us dubbing down with the blues. Like,
Yeah.
we
Flagstaff
remember that
is-
show.
we just had like,
That was a good show.
yeah, we just, we'll throw like these homie lineups for his birthday, where all these bands that have people we know in them that we, adore, that we never get to play with because of these boundaries, that's usually like our time to shine. Or like if there is a benefit, like I'm throwing a benefit for something, like I'll always make that mixed genre. But it's also usually because I'm snapping for locals. I'm like, because I don't want to pay anybody because we're raising money for a cause. I don't want to, have somebody drive 2 to 6 hours to get here and then have to worry about their gas money and all that shit when, because I'm not, and that's the other thing too. A lot of bands want to play here. Oh, we don't care about getting paid. Well, I care about you getting paid.
Yeah.
So the answer is no. I need a Flagstaff man. Because I'm not bringing anybody here for free.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
You should. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Flagstaff, man. Yeah, it's always complicated because like I'm in both sides of it where like I of course enjoy getting paid for shows, but I don't need to get paid for shows. Like it's hard to balance it cuz there's costs that happen when you do play shows. Like you have to the time that it costs. The rest of my band lives in Phoenix, so if we usually have to play a show, they have to commute. And it's like, it's really difficult.
I consider you guys a Phoenix band, not a Flagstaff band.
Yeah.
I just learned that recently, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
We were Phoenix for a while, and then we did really well in Flagstaff, but now that they've moved back down to Phoenix and we stopped playing shows, it's kind of like split right now. But it's always difficult because I'm like, there's like the punk side of me where it's like, yeah, man, I don't need money to like do this. It's because I love it. But at the same time, it's like, man, I really want to eat dinner tonight.
No, seriously. Okay, so here's my other thing too, which I've gotten a lot of blowback from people and stuff like that, is like I don't pay local bands. And unless
that's fair because they don't have to travel.
Unless the show does very, very well. I mean, I'm not saying I never have, because like I mean, if the show's the last show that I threw that was really poppin' was April 4th. We had Mormon Mincers here, and I paid every band that night except for mine.
Nice.
Like I literally was just that was lit because the show did so incredibly well that I felt the need that every band should get paid.
I feel like Mormon Mincers always does really well when they come to Flagstaff.
Well, we've put them with the right bands every time.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. I've booked them every time they've played here.
Nice.
Whether I've played with them or not. And that's just it. Like, if it does really well, we were in a larger capacity space versus, like, the Tall Skinny House.
Yeah.
Where there's only so much money we can make. Yeah, they got everything that night. But low key, my goal is if I have one touring band to play, is to get them at least $300.
That's
if
so helpful.
If I have two bands to pay $400, if I'm using a venue the size of the Hive, just shave $100. Like if it's if it's one band, 200. If it's two bands, 300. And I feel like anything less is sort of unacceptable. Very rarely, though, with the shows I book, do I have to come out of pocket, which should show you how well the scene is actually doing here, and that there is a large audience. And like I said, there's just not a lot of bands. There's a lot of people trying to start them, but there's the other hurdle of nobody has a place to practice. Nobody, because our town doesn't have, a lot of those resources, at least, in a way where, like, a group of 16-year-old kids can afford it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're slowly like trying to introduce the Hive as becoming more than like just a venue space. Like we want people to be able to rent the space out to practice.
Yeah.
And we want it to be used for things that aren't just shows, like maybe like a dance class or any type of art.
Event space.
An event space. Yeah.
A third space.
A third space. Exactly. That's good. Yeah. And I think that is super important, like to have a spot that people can at least try it out and maybe practice once or twice, And I think hopefully our goal is if people start practicing and, we can start seeing more bands and start getting more people into the door to see music and just start kind of building like a community more so than like what things have been. Not that there hasn't been a community.
I think the biggest hurdle for the Hive, as somebody who's on the outside, looking in, is the fact that you guys can only operate for 5 hours a day if it's loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
Like
God.
I completely agree with that.
To me just really grinds my gears. Not towards you guys, but it's just like,
Go yell at that old guy that comes in every show and he's like, hey, I can hear this and it's 5 p.m. And it's like, dude, calm down.
like,
Really?
No. My main gripe with people who live downtown and bitch is like, you live downtown.
Same.
Shut
oh my
the
God.
like go. If you can afford to live here, you can afford to live somebody else in this town. Fucking fuck off. Like the city councilwoman who lives behind Southside. Now, granted, I have no interest in Southside Tavern. I don't give a fuck about Southside Tavern. but like they're constantly trying to get that place shut down. And it's just like you chose to buy a house right
Directly
next to
next
the
to a
main
bar.
right next to the main drag in downtown.
I would
Yeah.
almost say that
Like-
that's unethical to the city's operation because you can see more and more buildings totally shutting down on that street. Too.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that would
Oh, yeah.
just keep that trend going.
Yeah, I'm
I
talking about
swear,
you,
the
Miranda
South
Sweet.
Side- That's messed up. The South Side could end up being like one of those towns you see, like Safford, Arizona, or if you've ever been to something like where half of the downtown is just empty, just like.
Yeah, and I just don't understand. Like, I mean, you're looking for quiet, peaceful living, and you move downtown to either a major city or a tourist trap.
Half
I know
of-
you can guess
right.
which one we are.
And half
You
of
know, like, it's
half
loud
of the
down
people
here
who
all the
live
time.
here
I
are
live
students.
downtown.
I looked at the numbers, and it is about half of the people here go to NAU.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the other half are
And we don't
old
even
people that
retain,
are-
and we don't even retain them. Like,
No,
they leave.
for real. I almost got written up at my job a while, like 3 years ago, when I worked at a hotel because I worked at the Residence Inn downtown, and this guy chose a street, like room that was directly next to Orpheum Theater, and he called me and was like, "It's so loud, I can hear this venue. You need to tell them to go turn it down." And I'm like, dude, I can't tell Orpheum Theater to stop their show. And then he actually told me that, and he was like, "Well, I'm gonna call the cops then." I'm like, "Do it, like, call the cops, bro. They're not gonna do anything about it." And I brought that up because I'm in the same boat. Like, dude, if you want a peaceful, quiet night, don't like get a street like room and downtown next to one of the biggest venues in town.
And these are all people that like, dude, like, they're not broke college kids. They're not like these are motherfuckers with money. These are people that have their house here and their house in the valley, you know, and like
I come here for the summer.
yeah. I mean, there was one day I was here early as fuck setting up for a show. And, you know, Ryan did give me specific instructions, like, don't be loud till after 5. I was like, yeah, no problem. And I was, like, lightly tuning my snare. Like, literally just...
And then
And
Alec
then
texted me.
Yeah, like, literally seconds later, moments later, somebody had already contacted Alec and complained, and Alec contacted Ryan. He's like, are you playing music? I'm like, no, I'm not. It's snare. Like, I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, man. Like...
Well, it's just like there's a banker right across the wall. And he has...
Yo, we're being louder right now
Right.
than I was, like, doing that, dude.
If it wasn't for the overhead being as low as it is with the rent, this place would not work.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the thing with that limited amount of hours.
Yeah.
It would be so, and then even and then if you went to any other place, even if we had more hours, it would still be so difficult with the increased overhead costs. In fact, it might be even more difficult because the limited amount of hours kind of crams like the primetime stuff into the primetime slot. Because there's only really shows Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and there can be community things on weekdays during the day.
Or smash tourney.
Right, we were talking about video game stuff. I really want to see more actual community events, though.
Me too.
Like, I would
Food
like
drives.
to see stuff. Well, I'd like to see education. I'd like to see education, like overdose education, drug education. I'd like to see like protest education, like education on how to talk to or not talk to the cops, like that kind of stuff. Business education, arts education, cultural education, anything. But the problem is that we don't have a budget.
Yeah.
And I feel like everybody needs to get paid too. So we're trying to figure out a way to do it.
Yeah.
But these are all points of inspiration. And just signed a 3-year lease, rewriting the business plan, trying to be open-minded. And because the Hive has a mind of its own is the thing. Again, because it's bigger than any one person's perception of it. And after, I think Urian and I have probably spent the most time observing it over the years. And it really does kind of have its own life, which you...
Yeah.
It finds people find it somehow just keeps going.
It's perpetual.
A lot of it's Urian.
It's like a river in a way.
He's done a lot of stuff. He put up the projector.
He cut out a wall.
Ooh.
Yep.
Made a sound booth.
Yep.
I just post silly memes on the story.
I like your memes a lot.
Thank you.
I guess in slight answer to that, yeah, the Hive's been through so much. I remember starting to do like sound here like 2016-ish after doing sound at my house shows out in Lake Mary.
Oh yeah.
And booking shows and just seeing so many different things happen here. And like, yeah, people find it and then people are excited and then they start becoming a part of the Hive and part of the scene. And then people fade away and whatnot. And it's hard not to fade away because like you could get so jaded just being in the scene for so long. And
Isn't that just what happens by nature?
Yeah.
well, I suppose so, but I'm actually surprised with myself that I'm not so jaded at all with it. I still enjoy doing sound every time, hearing new bands all the time. It's like one of my favorite things, talking to bands, even though like, you know, like, that's probably the only time I'm ever going to see them, or, you know, even seeing them again the next year or next couple months, you know, it's and then seeing new bands come out, like, and then like new bands in town starting up, and just seeing the excitement in everybody's eyes is like one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Same.
And the best thing I can do to provide them for is, you know, give them the best sound they can have here, you know. And I feel like I've been able to be here long enough to understand the room well enough to give that to them. And and that's just my quick spiel on the essence of what I like to do at the Hive.
Yeah, I think I've seen, especially because I've been working pretty closely with y'all since I started playing here, and I mean it's changed so much. And on that topic, my favorite part about the Hive is every time a show happens and it's like a full room and just seeing like people having like the time of their lives, you know, like, you know, it's a good bill and like people are dancing and laughing and having fun, and like it's really awesome to be able to provide like a community experience and memories for people, you know, because like for a night when it's work for us and we have to like, you know, shut the building down and make sure no one's dying and that kind of stuff, like to everybody else there, like they're making memories and they're there to experience it, and like you can feel the warmth, not just how hot it gets in the room, but just like how much energy and liveliness there is. Like the Hive, when no one's here, it's kind of like stagnant, it's a little still, but so much life is breathed into it during shows. And it's so cool to see it so happen so much, you know.
Yeah.
And on that note, I actually see it mostly empty. That's you know, like it's probably about 10% of the time is when shows are happening when I'm here. You know.
Yeah.
I spend so much time before and after shows just working on the Hive, but also, you know, like setting up for shows and whatnot.
I feel like people, like, especially kind of on the topic of people on the outside looking in, I don't think people realize like how much work and time it takes to actually help manage a venue and make sure everything stays running. Like it's a constant thing. I mean, 24/7, you know, especially like when you're booking, you get like hundreds of emails a day and like everybody wants to play, and
Hundreds of emails a day is a bit
dozens of emails.
maybe about 10 emails a day.
Okay.
Tens
Millions
of
of emails, you
Tens of
say.
emails a day.
Tens of emails.
twos.
Right. I mean, there's I don't even have a venue, and there's not a day that goes by that someone's not asking me for a show.
Yeah, seriously, it's pretty constant.
I feel like you gotta start being choosy at some point.
Yeah.
You know.
It's a hard balance, you know, because you want to be able to provide a show for everybody, and you always want the shows to do good, and you want people to show up, and you want them to promote well, but there's so many external factors that play into how
You can
that
narrow it
plays
down.
out. Yeah.
But you're probably not gonna like my answer.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Book the ones you want to see more.
Yeah.
You know, so like the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, is like I feel like there's a lot of people out there who, dare I say, aren't quite ready. You know, there's ways to navigate around that when they're local. When they're local, just put them on an opening slot and put a band you know that's gonna draw motherfuckers locally on last. You know, the local sandwich.
Yep.
This hasn't been discussed. Very important.
No, it's
like
so
it,
true.
it doesn't matter where you are in the country. Local band opens, local band closes.
Yep.
Period. Do not put a traveling band on last, please. Almost every time that I have played a show in my life when I have been out of town and put on last, other than in one band, but those circumstances were a bit different. Every other band, literally, disaster. Like, everybody's fucking leaving. Literally, when Face Pulp went on that big ass tour last year, it was like 24 shows in 27 days or some shit like that.
Damn.
That's a lot of
That's
shows.
a lot.
It's all right. Every show we had where they did that to us, we played to nobody. The most disappointing one was in San Diego.
Same, bro.
Like, literally, so there were people who came to this show. I don't want to say a lot of people, but a good amount of people. It's a very big space, so take a lot of people to fill it in. But the point is plenty of people were there for a Tuesday or whatever the fuck day it was. And I remember in the very beginning, once again, having the argument, with the venue, hey, I know you advertise this as the headlining band, which is what you should do for a touring band. But you still need to, put a local on after us, blah, 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 to keep people here. Oh, don't worry about it. Everyone will stay. See, I've heard that before. And I think only, once or twice in my entire life has that been true.
Yeah, straight up.
And I have played, quite literally, I would not be surprised if I played over 1,000 shows in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I was in a band at one point that was touring 3 months out of the year.
Nice.
So, I know it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I fucking know it doesn't work. And sure shit enough, this fucking band plays, and they were never mind. I'm not going to do that. They brought the crowd.
Yeah.
Everyone was there to see them. They were super local. And were very, dug in that area of San Diego. And as soon as I got done playing, everybody left, including them.
Damn. Nobody
fucking stayed around to watch us. We played, Nick and Andrew, the twins?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We played the Nick, the security guards, the bouncers, and the bar staff.
Oh, damn, dude.
Everybody fucking left, dude. I was seriously, tired.
My worst show experience was also
And we were on
San
a
Diego.
big stage, too. So it was super fucking awkward.
Yeah.
We're, 5.5 feet in the air, in this big, empty space.
What was your worst show, Chloe?
Yeah, what's the worst show you've ever been to?
You don't have to name names or venues.
Where you were just the venue
just
sucked, the
kidding.
band sucked, everything sucked.
You're gone before is at the Hive.
Yeah.
That's a great question, actually. And this is going to be a very controversial take. It was the Misfits.
Really?
Why is
I
that controversial?
hated seeing the
I
Misfits
feel like they
live.
suck
Interesting.
live.
They absolutely do.
They
I
probably
saw
suck
them.
They
live.
suck in the studio.
They probably sucked live in the 80s. I mean, I
I
don't care.
saw
I don't
them
like the
live
Misfits.
twice. I saw them last year twice, and they don't know how to perform.
That's
they-
always boring.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it would probably help if there was an original member to be seen, or it
Right.
wasn't just some money-making scheme.
That's also
Yeah.
true.
Cool. I have one more question before we start wrapping up. So we've talked about the scene a lot. The good, the bad. What is one thing you can think of to make it a better scene?
We need a space that's bigger than the Hive.
I think I agree with that heavily.
Yeah.
We need a space where we can fit way more people so that the community can
An all-ages
properly
space.
grow.
Yeah, and it has to
Yes.
be. It has to be all ages. So
Yep.
here's the thing: before my fallout with the Legion, is when I started to get the big emails. Right about the time that fell apart. I'm not gonna name names because it's useless, but essentially, I was getting emails from bands that would bring hundreds of people, and the reason why the Legion was ideal was because the hall alone, just the entertainment hall, not including the bar, capacity 300.
Yeah.
Plus the bar, which is, was like another 89 or something like that. So I could sell, 389 tickets to things that I know would sell out. I know they would. And that's been the biggest, bummer. I know Alec and I have talked a lot about a bigger space and how we could use the bigger space, but even then, that wouldn't serve the purpose of those kind of shows. Because we would be using it for screen printing. We would build out rehearsal rooms. We would do, XYZ, screen printing, whatever. All the things that keep the lights on versus, just the shows, which we know for a fact is not what keeps the lights on. It's not.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. You don't make money from shows. Anybody out there whose dream is to start a venue and thinks that using the space just for live entertainment is going to pay their bills, get that out of your head right now. It hasn't worked in 30 fucking years. So, yeah, it's a sad reality. You got to find other uses for your space, whether you're recording, screen printing. There's plenty of other things you can do that can still contribute and help the scene, and keep it alive and keep it growing and maintained. So, yeah. So I say, we've all seen so many of our favorite fucking spaces go. And it's always heartbreaking. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree. I just think a bigger space and a more, I shouldn't say an accepting community, because that's not quite the right term. I wanted to talk about this a little bit. I think part of the reason that maybe shows can be cliquey is that maybe some people are scared to let loose, let their freak fly. And I feel like they need spaces need to encourage spaces need to encourage just coming here and being yourself and letting loose and just having the time of your life. I feel like a lot of people are too scared to actually do that.
They are. So one of the only complaints I ever heard about the Legion, and the fact that I would vocally express to not drink in the parking lot, which was all the kids' things to make fun of, which I would have done the same thing. I don't give a fuck. Was there's just so many American flags, and there's this and there's that, and it's just well, what the fuck do you want me to do? And it came from folks from the Alphabet Mafia, which I support. But I was just I don't know what you want me to do about that. Look, I mean,
it's the American Legion.
I mean, First of all, we're in a veterans hall. Secondly, there's Alphabet Mafia motherfuckers who volunteer here. I don't know what else I can do. Once again, just working with what you have. Nothing in this town is fucking ideal. It's probably never going to be ideal, especially as we grow.
Yeah.
We're priced out of everything. Me and my small collective of homies have been trying to find a building or a space for years. And we've gotten to the point on multiple occasions where, we're about to start signing paperwork, we're about to do the thing and get a spot. And then somebody with enough money, always from somewhere else, Scottsdale, wherever, just buys the building outright. And then, more often than not, the building just sits empty, but somebody owns it. And they certainly ain't going to rent or lease it to us. Because it's happened at this point now 4 different times.
That sounds like Flagstaff.
Where we really thought we were about to have a space, and it just went down like that. Now, on a side note, there's some rumors on the street. The junkyard that's in the front of Butler, across the street from Little Scottsdale, allegedly the whoever was having the space is being evicted. So that's about to be open. That's a really good sized warehouse.
We were looking at that one.
Yeah, and then also allegedly Tallahogan's for sale. So, and that space, I know in the past had been a show space, an info shop, a kitchen, a print shop, and had a lot of those things that we talked about. So I mean, I don't know. The things are they're available for very short periods of time. So, you know, if you don't get on it right away, you're going to miss it.
Gotta be
And yeah, but also, you know, there was a point in time where until I just moved into my newer spot, now I'm in a lease until September or August. I was even willing to like live at a space and pay like $1,200 a month just to be there, and I'd be able to be there 24 hours, handle day-to-day operations, etc. To try to, you know, help with the rent situation in the monthly, you know, whereas I would, you know, pay a set standard of rent and, you know, cover a chunk of utilities to try to add to a space and make it work. And now I can't until at least the end of summer.
So I think the moral of the podcast is destroy all rich people.
Yes.
Usually, I mean, or just like, I mean, it's never gonna happen. But this town needs to stop fucking selling out to like outsiders and shit, because they don't care about this place.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they're like the few people that actually live and work here that own something. They're the motherfuckers that own like a giant chunk of the city.
Yeah.
It's impossible for any normal person or group of normal people, it seems, to really dial something in and make something happen. Because if you have a strong enough collective with enough people, you can afford the monthly.
Yeah.
You know, but if somebody from this LLC or this accounting firm or this or that, you know, is just gonna swipe it right from under you, it's useless.
Yeah.
You know, like you're still not gonna win. Once again, 4 different occasions now where it looked like, you know, me and the homies were gonna have a building and a space, and I was talking to Johnny from No Wrong about this. Like, we just need a space for all the rocker fools to go and hang out, you know, like, and just kind of give everybody that space where they can fly their freak flag and be themselves, and, you know, actually have a place to just kind of congregate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would bring a lot of people
Again,
closer
the
together
third
too.
space.
That's
thing.
kind of what we're
space,
trying
yeah.
to turn the Hive into, you know? I mean, it's a small space, but we want people to come here and hang out. Like, that's why Alec and I have been doing the open art jam events. It's to get people to come here and use the space,
Yeah.
whether it to be jam or to make art. And so, yeah, I mean, we definitely need
Yeah, I mean,
spaces that
I will
support
tell you
that.
this. In the last year, most of the time when I come past this place, there's somebody here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Alec walks up while I'm sticking flyers to the door. You know, whereas for most of the time I've lived here, and I would walk past this space, it'd be empty, vacant, nobody doing anything. So I think that everything to do with this space, even in the short amount of time that I've been involved in this scene, because realistically, we'll say I've been involved since 2021, but didn't really care until 2022.
Yeah.
You know,
That
because
sounds about
I was trying not to take on this previous life load I used to have, but, you know, I'm addicted, so, you know, it's kind of unavoidable because this is the stuff that makes me happy, even though it brings you a lot of disappointment and heartache. So
Fair.
it at least gives me purpose. You
Yeah.
know, because I'll be damned if my purpose is to fucking go to work and then go home and sit in front of Netflix or video games all the time, or go to work and then go to the gym. Who the fuck wants to run?
You're too old to be doing that. You'll hurt yourself.
Oh, shut the
Get
fuck
a
up.
hernia.
Listen to your child.
Any last thoughts?
What was that question you had?
Oh, what could improve?
What,
What could be improved about
what's
the
one
scene?
thing you could think of that would improve the Flagstaff scene?
Chloe?
I said I agree with Randy a lot. I think we need the third space.
Right.
It's very important in improving a community, because if some people need a place outside of work or school and their house to go and meet up with people, because that's how you meet like-minded people.
Yeah.
You have to go and interact with them, which is why I started coming to the Hive. It was very helpful right after COVID, when I didn't want to go back to school.
How did you find out about the Hive?
So my first show was a show at Liminal. It was Monette's second show ever, and I went there, and then I saw on their Instagram that they were playing a show here. So I was like, well, I might as well come to that. And I think it was -32 and someone, maybe the Basements, who were playing. And that was how I found out about the Hive, and I didn't stop going. Since then, it's like an addiction.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's the Hive mind.
Yes, the Hive mind.
And I think on that tip, as far as a step up, all ages venue, agreed. It's a very small room, and I think that there's more acts that need to get out there. Unfortunately, Fire Creek is pay to play right now.
Yeah.
And
Fire Creek could be a great space.
it's also still
Yeah.
probably held unfavorably in the community, but I think it's one of those things. It's a good space. It could be transformed. The person who's currently the booking manager there is pretty cool. I can't remember her name. I haven't played over there recently.
Their venue fee was outrageous when I tried to book there.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. And I was like, I can bring a sound person and a door person.
Right.
You
It's
know,
a
they were
little
trying to make me-
expensive
yeah,
for
they-
this level. It's like that should be like NAU jazz showcase type things, like more. I mean, even like a classical guitarist, like they could get some cool events in there like that.
They have the first
But
Friday
not when they're
folk thing.
not when they're asking for. So when,
It's like $300 or something without a sound person, so then you have to hire your own sound help or something.
no,
like
no,
that.
it was like $300 for a sound person.
Oh,
and
jeez.
we could cut the costs by having a door person of our own.
right, and that's pretty expensive.
yeah,
for somebody to just throw a show, which that's kind of frowned upon culturally by musicians and people. I mean, who pays to do their job? You know, who
I just
pays
don't-
to be a plumber? Who
I
like
just don't
who
think-
gives their customer money up front to get the chance to fix their toilet? That's my
Yeah.
question.
well, that's just it for me. Is like, you know, I have enough people who can handle every aspect of what you need for a show, whether it's security, door person, sound person. I mean, I literally do sound for a living.
Right.
I can do it, but chances are I'm going to be security and floating and making sure that the production is running swimmingly.
Well, you are paying for the room.
You know?
You're paying for the labor of the sound, but also you're not getting any marketing. They don't have any marketing.
Well, it's
apparatus,
not that.
it is
My
kinda-
biggest thing is like, why do I, like, can't I just bring my own person and pay them?
right.
Like, literally, when I'm at my job,
They're probably worried about something breaking. I bet somebody convinced them, and I bet you somebody's on payroll who has that slot, who doesn't want their slot to be taken because they.
yeah. I make 22 an hour to do sound.
Yeah.
Like, and I know that's like on the low end, but I'm also in a lower end place doing it.
Right.
Like, I know you can work for a big venue and blah blah blah, make big bucks, but yeah, wait in line for 30 years. I'm coming for your job, Scotty Jensen.
Well,
Oh.
it's we don't do the room fee here. I think that's so.
The split here is totally fine. I've never had a problem. I think the most I've ever come out of pocket here was like fucking $40.
Oh, nice.
But that's because of my stubborn ass standard.
So the scene, quote unquote,
This
and
place
then
fills up, man.
a new venue. I think should happen. I think whoever is planning on doing it. So look at it this way: what is the maximum amount of people you want at the show? Try to create some targets for the space. This is just an opinion. Like, do you want to have a 200, 300 cap? Get exactly that or slightly lower so that you're not paying a assload extra in rent. If you're just trying to operate it as a venue, you can make money off of rehearsals. You can definitely make money off of rehearsals. And if you do it right, you can totally, I think you can make it happen. You just have to be really
Yeah, I think a 300-person venue is where it's at.
Right, something like
Because
that.
that allows you to have large underground artists play.
But it can't just be DIY. I think everybody
need to
needs
be.
to come together and like, I mean, really imagine it more than just a year in the future. Don't just go on a wing and a prayer. Just please, because I want to see it happen.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You find the people who are willing to do the work, which most of the people we know are, and you break down percentages and you make a deal.
And you create an operating agreement.
Yeah. Like literally, just like if the show doesn't do good, guess what? Nobody's getting paid. But hey, if the show does good, guess what? Everyone's gonna make more, and the better the show does, the more money you're gonna get paid.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that to me, in terms of what we're doing, is about the best you can ask for. You know, out of all those shows at the Legion, the hardest obstacle was how many security guards they wanted us to have, which I thought was super unnecessary.
How many did they want?
Let's not even get into it. Psych. 3 door people, one for each, door. Then they wanted 2 on the floor in the main room, 1 person in the bar, 2 people to stand in the parking lot.
That's crazy.
And then they wanted to add this kiddie corral outside and not have re-entry. And then they wanted someone to stand out there too. I was like, so what? You want us to have like fucking 11 people to run a show?
That's fucking absurd.
So what that did was it really split the pot.
Yeah. You gotta pay those people too.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
like-
And when the shows did really good, I mean, every position was paying $20+ an hour. But not every show is gonna be good. Not every show is gonna have that many people. So some nights you're handing somebody a 20, and you're like, thanks for being here all fucking day.
Yeah, I've been there. And
that's not fun,
yeah.
And I mean, in the entire time I was doing that too, I was rarely taking anything for myself. If the show did really well, I would want my flyer money back. Because I usually drop about $50 on flyers for each event I throw. So.
Where do you print your flyers at?
It is a little bit expensive. I used to do the UPS store, but now I do Mogion Engineering.
Word.
It's not only right next to my house, but the quality of the prints are much better. And I mean, this is another thing we should have brought up. Stop making flyers in color. Stop. Stop making color flyers. It's fucking expensive. You make color flyers, I'm gonna print. That's gonna be a difference between me printing 15
For
flyers.
paper flyers.
Yeah. Like no. You send me a colored flyer. That's gonna be the difference between me printing 15 or printing 50.
To anyone
Sometimes
asking,
more.
You heard it here.
Good to know. Good to know.
Black and white.
Watch out.
Black and white. You're talking about the difference between, depending on where you're getting it done, you're talking about the difference between 10 to 50 cents a print versus $1 to $3 a print. For what? To go and then I gotta go out for fucking free and hang these bitches up? No. Black and white only. Stop making colored flyers. Stop it.
Cool. I think we're gonna end on that note because this is now the longest Hive podcast we have.
Wow,
Where
look
are
at
we
us
at?
go.
Sick.
How to make the scene better. Last thing. Ask a question.
An hour and 16.
Ask yourself a question.
How-
Why?
How can you make the scene better?
How can you
Tell us in the
make the scene
comments.
better?
and why do you
What are
like going
you
to
gonna
shows?
do?
Why are you going to a show tonight? Why are you playing music? What are you trying to do? Ask yourself that question.
What makes you keep coming back?
Oh, that's a nicer way to put it.
Well, eventually they stop.
Yeah.
I mean, life has changed after all.
I mean, I didn't. So
that's
Yeah.
I also didn't.
Well,
been doing it 8 years.
It's still
now.
too early to tell.
It's because we've been captured by the hive mind. We have not yet awoken from our slumber.
cool. Well,
Hey.
thanks for being on, guys.
Yeah.
Enjoyed everybody's opinion.
Yeah,
This
this
is
was
a
a really
joy.
good podcast. This was a lot of fun. All right, peace.
Peace.